Well, thanks for tuning in. We are so glad that you're watching tonight. A great evening here in Nashville. Chuck Long here with attorney Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. We're talking all things legal, and as you can imagine, that spectrum, it's a broad spectrum of topics, and we've already found from all of our callers this evening how many different topics fall under that umbrella of the legal profession. So what we're going to do, we're going back to the phones right now. I think calling us back. Actually, we're going to the lines right now. Linda is on the line with us. Linda, we're glad that you are watching tonight. And do you have a question or a comment for Kevin? Are you with us, Linda? Linda, are you there?
We may have lost Linda.
We may have lost Linda. Linda, if you want to call back, please do.
You know, Chuck, I really wanted to address while Chuck and I were...
Oh, Mr. Kennedy.
There you are.
Go ahead.
Okay, Linda, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Okay, I recently, well, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I hired an attorney for my fiance.
Yep.
Okay, and the attorney promised him this, that, and the other thing, and when it comes before the grand jury, the attorney pretty much abandoned him.
Oh, my.
And then afterwards, he told him that he owed him about $10,000 or $11,000 more.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and so we had to hire another attorney to get him out of the original charge. Can you give me any advice on what to do about the old attorney?
Well, what I would do is talk to the new attorney that you have and understand exactly what this lawyer is maintaining that he did for the fees that he earned. He's probably in the best position to know because he knows the ins and outs. But you did bring up a great question that I like to talk to people about the grand jury. You know, you can go to the police and say there is a problem, and the police may or may not issue an arrest warrant. Everybody has the right to go to the grand jury and say, when does the grand jury meet? I'd like to present this case to the grand jury. Now, a lot of people don't know that, and I'm telling you, it's kind of interesting, but the grand jury can hear that case and indict someone. Likewise, let me tell you another trick. If you want to call it a trick, you can call it a technique, you can call it knowledge. If they were out here and you waived your case to the grand jury, you know, your lawyer can still go behind the scenes and talk to these witnesses and talk to the district attorney, and it might kill it at the grand jury. But if it gets past the grand jury, you could be in for a full-fledged jury trial, and if you're being tried, it's not a fun position to be in. So what do I take away from that? Proactive approach. Every step of this process, have your advocate moving forward and suggesting and learning. And so that's some really great advice. You know, thank you for that call. I wanted to take what you were asking me a little bit during that break about
because I'm asking about lie detector tests.
Yeah, okay. Well, one of the things, I don't think I would ever want to take a lie detector test. Why? Because we all know that there's always a room for error. And you know, people say, hey, guess what? You know, I have high anxiety. Well, you'll hear all the operators say, those tests are perfect. Well, and I've also heard people say, you know, Kevin, I took some downers and it brought my blood rate down, and all I said was this, and it registered across. Okay, so how do you evaluate that? And I'll tell you, you know, some people, I told you, Chuck, a person came and said, well, Chuck, touch me. And Chuck said, Kevin, I don't even know these people. Well, will Chuck take a lie detector? Here's what the real world. And I'd say, will this person take a lie detector? No, we don't operate like that. Well, what is fair about that? Someone makes an allegation. If they want to stand on it, let them take a lie detector test. But you see, that's how these things are stacked. But you need to understand what the rules are so we can play by those rules.
And can a person refuse to take that?
Absolutely. And they come in and says, I want to talk to you. Well, see him. And I'd say, y'all, Chuck is innocent. Now, what other questions do you want to know?
Good to know. Glad you touched on that.
And remember, if they interpret that you have told a lie, they can charge you with a false report, and they can charge you with perjury, lying to a FBI agent or whatever. Use your best judgment. Best judgment's always try to get a lawyer to go between you.
Absolutely. All right, back to the lines. I think Steve is calling us back. Steve, it's good to have you back here on Open Line. Do you have a follow-up question?
I got cut off a while ago.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's no problem, Chuck. I was just wanting to say thank you. You answered my question, but I want to tell you, I'm not much on complimentary, but I really enjoy this show. And I
Thank
really
you so
enjoy
much.
both you guys. And where I come from, Mr. Attorney there would be considered a cool cookie under fire. I bet he could spend his share in a foxhole in Mountain with me because I had a bad head helper on my team. But y'all have a good night, and thank you for having this show, sir.
Yes, thank you
Steve.
so
Thanks
much
for
for those comments. You know, I've said it before. The real world, Chuck Long is a man who really cares about people, and that's why it's such a privilege to get to do this. I love to share what I know, and I want to help people any way we can. But it takes a guy with a sincere, compassionate heart to do and keep me going. And so I salute you on there, and thank you, sir, for those comments, because they're very much appreciated.
Well, thank you. Like I said, this is always a learning lesson for me every time you're on the air, so I always enjoy it as well.
I told Chuck earlier, you know, even when I talk, I am reiterating because we all want to trust everybody.
Right.
We are naturally want to be honest people, and we want to work with honest people. Kevin, sometimes you got to remember, Kevin, you better think, because not everybody is going to treat us honestly and fairly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, back to the lines right now. Joyce, we are glad that you are watching this evening. Do you have a question or a comment?
Question.
All righty, go right ahead.
My question is, I fell at my job last October. I went to physical therapy for my shoulders, and then they just cut me off. Do I need to see an attorney about that?
Yes, ma'am. Really, I would always say if you have an on-the-job injury, and if it's in the state of Tennessee and they have more than 5 employees, that's a workers' comp claim. Now, that is the exclusive remedy. And so, again, you have to go fall under the Tennessee laws. Who controls that? The Tennessee legislature. And I'd like to make this point openly. Remember, it is a lawyer that is the last vestige of hope. He is your advocate. And so whenever they close the courthouse doors to the lawyers, they've closed the courthouse doors to the workers. So, you know, you can say, well, I don't like lawyers. And, well, remember this. When you're in need, that lawyer will be the greatest friend to you and your family you've ever known. And I've hired lawyers. I have lawyers right now. I have lawyers that work at the Kennedy Law Firm and outside lawyers. I love my lawyers.
All right. Well, we appreciate you calling in, Joyce, and glad that you had that question. Right now, back to the lines right now. Tim is on the line with us. Tim, we're glad that you're watching this evening. What is your question? Are you with us, Tim?
Ted.
Ted.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Ted, what is your question this evening?
Well, my problem is there's no laws here that the rent control, well, we don't have rent control.
Okay.
And I can't understand how I've been here 5 years. I think my rent has been raised about $300 over them 5 years.
Yes.
I'm on a pension, on Social Security, and I haven't got a raise. So how can they justify it? Of course, I know they say market rates.
Yes.
But yeah, what it is, it's just a big demand, and they're taking advantage.
Yes. You know, I see the same thing that you're seeing. I've been in the residential and commercial rental business 42 years. I see the potential for abuse. What do we do if you don't own a home and you're paying rent, and we're paying $1,000 a month, and when we finish that, they say, well, the rent has gone to $1,800 a month. Hey, guys, we can't pay that. We were doing good. We are victims of the circumstance of ultimate growth. So once you evaluate, where is my position? You should always try to talk to others and say, if we see this trend going, how are we going to get out ahead of that problem and try to deal? And if people continue and continue, you need to be figuring a way out. What is your exit strategy? Don't wait till we're hung in a position and we can't move. Move forward. Seek some financial advice. And perhaps, you know, there's all kinds of options. So I recognize the plight that you're saying. I see the same thing. Does it concern me? Absolutely it does. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, we do appreciate that, Ted. So also in kind of talking about rent, and a lot of times rent, you have, if you're renting a place, you have a neighbor that's,
come on,
you know, just some people say it's the ugly neighbor syndrome.
Yes.
So they're doing something to harass you. You hate to complain.
Yes.
You don't know what your legal rights are. You're afraid if you complain,
tell it, Chuck,
they're going to come over and they're going to do things that are even worse than what was happening before. Kind of what are your rights there?
Well, we see that all the time. What would a reasonable man do under those circumstances? An old quote from Benjamin Franklin said, good fences make good neighbors. And so what do you, can you win the battle and lose the war? Okay, you say, okay, Mr. Neighbor, don't do this, don't do that. And then you get a real bad neighbor. I'll never forget, we had some unscrupulous people that moved into an apartment complex that I owned one time. And these guys were really bad. So the other owner said, hey, Mr. Kennedy, I want to get this bunch out. If I get my bunch out and you get your bunch, we're all happy. I said, okay, that's fair enough. So we had ours put out because they were bad. They were tearing up his place, my place. Well, guess what? Then the neighbor said, well, since yours are gone, I'm going to leave mine. And I said, what a guy. So that is a real problem, Chuck. And I say, try not to offend your neighbors. I could go all night and tell you about the cases that people have miscalculated, even into a murder charge over a neighbor. One man said, don't do this. And the guy said, I'm going to do it. He said, if you do it, I'm going to do this. And he did. Was charged with murder.
All right, good to know. We have the lines busy right now, but we do need to take a short break. But hold on the line with us. We'll get to those calls right after this. And we're glad that you're watching Open Line. We'll be right back.